Hello, fellow treasure hunters. Matt Brewer here again with my third vlog, The Word That Is Key. Let's get started. This is based upon one comment that we have from Mr. Fenn directly, and there's not much more that I could find anyway relative to this specific comment, which is, many are giving serious thought to the clues in my poem, but only a few are in tight focus with a word that is key. So since there's only a very few, or this is the only statement about the word that is key, we have to make some assumptions. But we can make those assumptions based on other like comments from Mr. Fenn directly. And so the first assumption that I think is a good one that we can make is that Mr. Fenn is using the term key to mean a word that is very critical or very important to finding the treasure, meaning it's not a key as in a key used to decrypt something. So there's an example here that I've pulled up where Mr. Fenn said directly, the key word is contentment. If you can find it, everything else has already fallen in place. That lends credence to the idea that he uses the word key to mean that the word is critical or very important. The next assumption that one could draw is that the word that is key is likely in one of the clues in the poem. Here's another quote that seems to corroborate that assumption. It seems logical to me that a deep thinking treasure searcher could use logic to determine an important clue to the location of the treasure. Okay? And then the third assumption that I'm making here is that the word that is key is probably a noun. So if we believe that the word is in the poem, then when Mr. Fenn says every word is placed there strategically and you can't ignore any of the nouns in that poem, I think that lends some weight to this assumption that the key word is probably a noun. All right, moving forward. So the most probable conclusions that we can draw from this is the word that is key is probably found within the clue that Mr. Fenn has said is critical or is key to finding the treasure, which is where warm waters halt. So breaking down that clue into its components, warm waters, halt, I believe that the word that is key is halt because the way that halt is used in the poem, although I'm not a English major by any stretch, I believe it's referring to a place. Mr. Fenn has said it does refer to a place, and therefore, since it's referring to a place, it's being used as a noun. If the line were begin at where warm waters halt the cold waters, I think that would be a verb usage of halt because it's an action being done to the cold waters. So if halt is a noun, it's also more likely to mean temporarily, to temporarily suspend the motion versus to completely stop. And let's talk about that a little bit here. In applying the word halt as the key word, what we find here is the definition from I forget which particular. I just Google searched this and came up with halt, and there's two definitions, primary definitions here. One is of the verb sense, and the other is when used as a noun. And when you look at how it's used as a noun, it says a suspension of movement or activity, typically a temporary one. So typically a temporary one. So if in the noun definition, halt is typically a temporary suspension of movement or activity versus an abrupt or permanent stop. So if you take that definition and you think about maybe exchanging the word halt for pause. So begin it where warm waters pause. Does this change your potential answers to the first clue? Is this possibly what we're not thinking about in determining the answer to the first clue, which Mr. Fenn has said is absolutely critical to being successful in finding the treasure? Something to think about at least. So thumbs up, comment, subscribe, please. And up next, I'm going to do vlog number 4, where I lay out the 9 logical clues as I see them. So, thank you for watching. Matt Brewer out. Until next time.